rise to one of the top CEO spots in the record industry is symbolic of his ability, his determination and motivation to succeed. He is a man of many accomplishments, with the finger on the pulse of the industry and a fuel tank that's constantly filled to the hilt with energy and emotion. And in a business that has taken on a slightly more clinical persona, it's good to know that there are still a few executive spark plugs that can ignite an entire industry on raw emotion alone. Daniel is certainly in the top tier of this group. But what really drives Daniel Glass, and is the essence of his relationships, is his passion for people. Whether it's his immediate family, his lovely wife Deborah, his charming children Sean and Maxie, who are with him today, or his extended family, many of whom are in this room today, or organizations like LifeBeat, which Daniel co-founded, the T.J. Martell Foundation, the City of Hope, or the National Kidney Foundation. There's no doubting Daniel's commitment to causes and people, and causes that affect people. So without further ado, will you please welcome one of the more accomplished record executives in the business, ERG CEO President Daniel Glass.
I want to talk about something very near and dear to me, very dear to my heart, showing up. Woody Allen once said, 80% of success is simply showing up. Let me tell you what my definition of showing up is. Showing up means seeing a movie that doesn't have Tom Cruise, Sylvester Stallone, or Arnold Schwarzenegger in it. Or for the record people here, seeing a film that you don't have the soundtrack for. Showing up means going into a photography exhibition, a museum, a painting exhibition. Showing up means going to a play that has no music in it at all. Showing up means going to your kid's school to see the school play. Showing up means taking your spouse, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, or a friend, whitewater rafting, or taking some friends to a ball game. I did a little survey before I came out here. I called 3 very important programmers, some people we all know, and I asked them, when was the last time you did some of those activities? When's the last time you went to see your local sports team in the stadium or the arena? When's the last time you saw that museum show that went through that was on its way to New York or LA? None of them could remember. And I guess that's my point today. Showing up is not only good for the soul, it's good for the business. Popular music, in all its forms, is a sponge for everything that goes on in our society. That sponge, it soaks up art, it soaks up politics, soaks up sports, culture, you name it, and then it spits it out in the form of songs. If we stop showing up and stop experiencing this great world around us, we cannot possibly keep our fingers on the pulse. And our job is to keep our fingers on the pulse. My advice is get a life and live it. I read something terrific that Brian Phillips from 99X in Atlanta said in his Friday morning quarterback interview. I believe it was about a week or 2 ago. And I'll quote Brian Phillips. Quote, "We did a focus group last week. One of the questions asked was, think, where does your awareness of new music come from? Some typical answers were, my brother turned me on to new music. My friend gave me a Pearl Jam CD, and I listened to it. And in college, everyone around you was playing different CDs and tapes, so I heard new music that way. But nobody said, quote, I remember the first time I heard Pearl Jam, I was driving around in my car, and Jeremy came on. Nobody said that. Nobody they interviewed had an experience like that. For those of us who have radio in our blood, the generation that grew up with radio as the principal source of enlightenment in music, it's hard to believe that there's a generation out there right now that doesn't make the connection that is what we do." End quote. The source used to be radio. The source used to be radio. The source used to be retail. You had to get it there. Remember when you wanted it there? Let me say something else about showing up. The next time we show up by attempting to do something innovative, by attempting to do something breakthrough, we might be wrong. We might fail. Part of showing up is giving people the chance to experiment, giving people the chance to fail. And that goes for artists, that goes for employees, whatever. The freedom to fail is very crucial to the success and evolution of any creatively driven business like ours. As the late great bluesman Albert King said, everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. And I couldn't believe in those days that people were paying me to do the stuff that I love so much. And now I worry. I worry that I head up one of the great record companies in the world, that I will lose my ability to stay in touch with the world around me. I worry that these numbers that I keep seeing and these figures will obscure my vision and blur my passion. I only hope that I put together a really great, young, and talented staff. Joel Denver interviewed WHOT's Dick Thompson a couple of weeks ago, who after 35 years as the OMPD in Youngstown, Ohio, retired. And I just grabbed some quotes out of that, which say a lot. Quote Dick Thompson, after 35 years. "We've twisted ourselves into corners and become too careful. We've spawned a blandness in radio. Blandness and lack of creativity are radio's biggest problems today. We've got to have fun. We've got to be gutsy and rekindle a desire for cultivating young listeners. We've got to get them involved with radio for the sake of the future of our business." End quote. Promotion reps out there, I urge you, show up to radio with more than hype and more than statistics. Live life and live your music. Music directors, be a music director. Show up in a record store once in a while and do your job. Program directors, when did radio become 4 hours a day? When did it become a morning show only? I didn't grow up that way. This morning, my family, Ken, Neil, we went to the Holocaust Museum. We showed up this morning. You should drive 100 miles with your staff, with your family, with your team, with your spouse, and go get the best barbecue in the whole world. Or take everybody to the ball game. You should read a book and show up. A book that's not necessarily on the bestseller list. These are all just part of showing up. One of the best things about working in our business is that we get to work with some of the most young, creative artists in the world. These artists can teach us a lot about what it means to open ourselves up. Open up to the world around us, and they can show us. The artists themselves and us, including me, we're individuals. We're alienated. These artists, however, are our connection. We all want to connect. We all need to connect. We need the artists. Again, as you know, those of us at ERG and Chrysalis have been very fortunate to work with a group called Arrested Development. That's a band that 2 years ago defied conventional wisdom. They broke down musical barriers to create something that they called life music. I can remember last year talking to people and saying to them, Arrested Development, and they would say things to me like, they're too white for black radio, they're too rap for this, they're too black for top 40 radio. Well, they've managed to overcome all that. They've now sold over 4 million records and still going strong. How did they do it? They showed up. They showed us what was important to them. It turned out they knew something that we didn't know. They knew that the world was ready for a blend of hip-hop, rap, and pop music. It talked about the world and talks about the world in real political terms, cultural terms, yet nonviolent terms. Arrested Development was listening to the world around them and heard the rest of the world, heard things that the rest of us didn't. Arrested Development is part of the drum that I talked about before. There is a world out there that we have to remember and recognize, a world that goes beyond chart positions, sales, and ratings. A world out there just to show up for. The great irony of it all is, if you do show up, you'll probably end up bettering your chart positions for your records, increasing your ratings, or spiking your sales in the process. John Lennon, he said it best. Life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. Thank you.
I'm an old fart like Freddie. I haven't been around quite as long, but I've seen them come and go. And as they say in the business, the wheel turns. And I've watched Daniel Glass rise from a local promotion man to a CEO of a company. I've watched Richard Palmese rise from a priest to a president of a company. I watched Donnie Einer rise from a local promotion man to a god. And also Mike Bone at one time came from promotion, was president of Mercury. Bob Sherwood, promotion president of Mercury also. And Phil Q, a wonderful Phil Q. I knew him as a local promotion man in Buffalo, came to my market, and I looked at him and thought, what the hell is this, you know? But Phil Q stands as tall today as anybody in our industry. And the point I'm trying to make is these people have all risen from the top as a local person to CEO, president of these companies. Not only does that should show you if you work hard and have the drive that you can succeed. It's a wonderful success story for these people. But what is greater for me to know is the fact they all came from promotion. I mean, it came from record promotion. It's their life and it's in their guts, and it's like the wonderful speech Daniel made. Show up. I mean, radio used to be that's all you ever heard. At Top 40 radio was the king, and it's just heartbreaking to see radio in the disarray it is today and fragmented. And I'm just hoping that the geniuses in our business, the Alan Burns and the Dan Valleys and Napoleons and so forth, can get this situation righted, and let's get radio back where it belongs. But my main point was to see these wonderful young men rise and become CEOs and presidents. Thank you.
Guider received his BA and MBA from Loyola College in Baltimore and his BS from Arbitron. Just kidding. Just kidding, Jay, I'm sorry. But I'm sure you've got a lot of questions. We talked briefly before I came in here, Jay and I, about the new passive meters, the people meters. They look like little pagers. So everybody will wear them. Everybody under the age of 20 will wear them. So let's hear it from the man. Ladies and gentlemen, Jay Guider.
I want to take the opportunity to thank Bobby for the invitation to come and speak to this group, because it's not often that we get a chance to really talk to a lot of the program directors, music directors at the stations. We probably spend too much of our time talking to the station managers, general managers, sales managers, and so forth. But what I really wanted to start with, and then obviously in questions can go any direction you want to start talking a little bit about the passive people meter, which is probably going to have the greatest impact in the programming promotion side of the station, as opposed to the sales side of it. To give you a little background, to kind of give you an idea what has happened since we made the announcement in December, and what the next steps are. What we announced, though, in December was a program to develop a passive people meter system by inserting identifying codes in a station's audio channel, both radio and television. And it's a code that cannot be heard by the listener. It's a very low frequency code. But what it can do, it can be detected by a small receiver, and this is actually one of the prototype devices that we've been testing. And that device is designed to pick up the inaudible code if a station is within earshot of listening to the radio. So if there was a radio on playing in the back that I could hear, this device would be designed to be able to pick that up. One concept, though, that we're going to have to talk about that goes along with that is this embedded signal is going to be sent approximately every minute. Right now, the conventional thinking is if I'm listening for 5 minutes, the station gets a quarter-hour worth of credit. This opens up the whole possibility of redefining really what listening is. How long do I have to be listening to that station before I'm a listener of that station and I get audience credit for it? So this partnership is really the key to it. It's important that as we go forward, the stations particularly are comfortable with the whole process. Engineers, general managers, program directors, very leery whenever you start talking about toying with the audio signal a little bit. Can this be heard? Might be fine for a music station, for a talk station, where there are obviously natural gaps in the conversation. Is a code going to come across? Is this going to give some